Since Mbappé joined Real Madrid, the club has felt like a story of extremes. On one hand, there was the sheer excitement of a formidable attacking force, one that seemed ready to dismantle any opponent. On the other, the reality of a trophyless season. Welcome to the Analyst's Lounge. Shall we begin? It's a journey from soaring expectation to quiet disappointment. And for some, the arrival of Mbappé himself is seen as the very thing that unsettled a team that was, until then, running like clockwork. Mbappé knows this. He knows he's on a different level. But he remained silent, didn't react. And this is what we're looking at today. Kylian Mbappé is a special player. He's been exceptional, a household name since he was just a teenager. He was meant to be the one to take the crown from Messi and Ronaldo, to stand at the very top of the world's game. And yet, from the moment he burst onto the scene at 17 to now, at 26, what Mbappé has achieved hasn't quite met those monumental expectations. There's no Ballon d'Or, no Champions League trophy. He left Paris Saint-Germain to chase that big-eared trophy, and what better place than Real Madrid, the undisputed kings of the competition? The irony, of course, is that while Real Madrid and Mbappé ended the season with nothing, his old club went on to win every piece of silverware available in Europe. That's why some started to see Mbappé as the problem. It made a certain kind of sense, especially when you consider that Madrid already had players with similar styles. Vinícius, who might not score as many goals but whose dribbling can change a game in an instant, and Rodrigo, who is in a similar boat. Just figuring out how to give everyone enough time on the pitch became a real headache for manager Xabi Alonso. Mbappé is at his most dangerous on the left wing. He's the kind of forward who cuts inside using his explosive pace, especially that first burst over a short distance, to leave defenders for dead. He needs space to operate. Playing him as a central striker out of his natural position limits his greatest strengths. This was the very reason PSG had to adapt their system, to get the most out of him and, frankly, to keep him happy. He once hinted that he felt more comfortable playing for France because he had Olivier Giroud up top with him, creating space for him to work in. You'd think this would have been considered before he signed for Real Madrid. But perhaps the allure of the club was just too great. The thinking seemed to be, let's just get him here and we'll figure out the details later. As it turns out, the details weren't so simple. Fitting Mbappé in wasn't as straightforward as President Florentino Perez might have hoped. The departure of Toni Kroos, without a like-for-like replacement, was overlooked. And all of these complicated issues landed squarely on the shoulders of the manager, who had to find a solution. But let's look at this from Mbappé's perspective. In Paris, if something wasn't to his liking, the club would bend. From his position on the field to being exempt from defensive duties, he held a certain power. People even jokingly called him the vice president. At Real Madrid, that's a different story. No one gets special treatment. It doesn't matter if you're a superstar. If you're not contributing to the team, you'll be sidelined. What Mbappé is doing now is completely out of character. There's no sulking, no demands. Instead, there are clear efforts to improve and to integrate with the team. He's decided to solve the problem himself. If he can't play in his preferred position and has to be a central striker, then he'll become a central striker. If he's no longer exempt from pressing, then he'll press. We can only guess at the shift in his mindset, but it seems to stem from two things. First, seeing his former club PSG become a more unified, hard-working team after he left, a team that won titles as a collective, not as a group of individuals. And second, the example of his idol, Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo transformed himself throughout his career, from a tricky winger to a lethal inside forward, and finally, to a pure striker. He adapted to what the team needed to win, rather than what he personally wanted. Mbappé has started his own transformation. He's adding strength and muscle to his frame. The goal isn't just to be physically stronger, but to adapt his game to playing in the middle of the pitch. This isn't just about being a target man, it's about becoming a forward who can link up play and drop deep to get the ball. This new approach has an element of surprise. Defenders aren't used to seeing him in the spaces between the lines. His added strength allows him to hold his own in physical battles, to protect the ball with his back to goal. When he draws defenders toward him, he creates space behind them for other players to run into. He can then lay the ball off and spin into the box for the return pass. It's a style we saw Real Madrid perfect with Benzema. Mbappé's advantage is that he still has that lightning pace. From a standing start with his back to goal, he can turn and accelerate past defenders in a flash. We're also seeing him run more, press more, and win the ball back more, things that were once a rarity. By committing to becoming a central forward who drops deep, Mbappé is solving the biggest tactical problem for the manager: how to play him and Vinícius in the same team without them getting in each other's way. The old headache might just be gone. Now, this doesn't mean all of Real Madrid's problems are solved. There are still questions about the team's structure, especially in midfield, after losing a player who could control the tempo of a game. But Mbappé's willingness to change, all while continuing to score goals, is a huge first step. And with that, our session in the lounge comes to a close. See you next time.